Maybe.
Maybe. Hey, it is Friday night, and I see Will Allred on my computer screen. That means it's time for Explain Yourself, and by the grace of the Geek Collective, we are here on Facebook and YouTube to talk comics with a range of creators with unique and interesting crowdfunding projects. I do think that, not to start on a somber note, but I think that when the comics community loses somebody like Tim Sale, we need to have a moment to at least acknowledge what he did for the community and what he did for comics. I am not as versed in his work as I wish I could be, but the name Tim Sale always said to me that this was an important book. Daredevil, Yellow, Spider-Man Blue. It always felt like if he was on a book, this was an important story that Marvel or DC or whoever was doing. And I want to tip my cap that I'm not wearing.
Yeah.
Raise a glass. Yes, raise a glass. And
there we go.
Our love and I never met the man, but love and respect for all of his work. So, all right. If anybody, I don't want to take anybody's time away. If anybody would like to mention it, you can. You don't have to, because I just sprung this on you like 30 seconds ago. No one has to. But we have crowdfunding projects that are on, and we are doing so in a crazy time, which means we're going to respect that, and we're going to get into the books that we came to talk about. We've got 4 creators from 3 projects. What we usually do at the beginning here is a 30-second pitch, as if you were at a convention and someone was walking past your booth and you had to get their attention. I don't know who would do that for Band of Bards. Whoever would like to introduce the dark side of purity to our audience. Okay, democracy is strong here. I believe that is you, Tim. So how would you get somebody's attention on the dark side of purity in about 30 seconds?
Admittedly, my weakness. But you're walking by, I'm going to ask if you've ever had some strong feelings on the patriarchy, and if not, why not? Come over and talk and check out this 2, possibly expanding to 3-volume, including an e-zine anthology that has prose, poetry, graphic poetry, comics, mixed media. There's a lot of talent involved here. There are about 36 women and non-binary creators giving their thoughts on purity culture and the harms that it does to society.
Awesome. All right. We don't have to decide. I'm going to go on my screen. John, how would you get somebody into Scorpio as they walked past your booth?
Yeah. So I'm definitely big for calling people out of the aisle as they're walking by. You kind of gauge their walking speed, It's kind of like if they're walking like just under a certain speed, it's like, all right, that's that's the one. Hey, come over here. Let me tell you a little bit about this. But no, yeah. So usually I tell people that it's a comic about 12 relics that are attached to each of the zodiac signs, and each of these relics have a protector. In each of these, based on your sign, you get a different ability with these relics. And the story usually kicks off, or the story does kick off with the Scorpio, who is basically not accepting his call to his protectorship for lack of a better word. So he's supposed to be protecting, and he's not. And this, of course, incites lots of drama and gets the story going. So yeah, that's like the very brief version before. Of course, they inevitably cut me off and asked me what their what their sign's power does.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense,
man.
Oh yeah, 75% of the time, I don't even get through what I'm talking about. They're like, "Oh, what does Taurus do?" You know?
In the deep dive, we're going to have to get to that. I want to get to that in the deep dive, and I want to get to the speed of the walker, because that is an interesting.
Oh yeah, that's important at conventions.
But real quick, Chris Stevens, the Golem of Venice Beach, if someone was going past your booth, how would you get them interested?
I think I would tell them that the Golem is the tale of an ageless golem living in Venice Beach, starting to question his existence, and illustrated by a murderer's row of Bill Sienkiewicz, Jay Lee, Paul Pope. I would list all the artists basically, but I'm not going to bore you guys with that right now since we're not actually selling anything here. Or we are actually. See, look, I'm not on my game. It's a little late for me. Yeah, no, it's Bill Sienkiewicz, Paul Pope, Jay Lee, Nick Pitara, Steve Bissett, Mike and Laura Allred, and Vanessa Cardinale, who's doing a series for Image right now called Slumber, and this is sort of her coming out party along with that.
Yeah, no, it is. I went through the list of creators on that page, and I was just like, I said some words that I'm practicing not saying. They were words of respect and disbelief, but it is a murderer's row of comic creators. Well,
thanks.
You know what, we kind of went in a circle there, so I'm going to say hi to the people in the comments, and then I think let's go into the Golem of Venice Beach first. We've got Shawnee is in the house. Hello, Shawnee. How are you tonight?
Shawnee.
And Joseph and Michael, what's up, everyone? We are about to have a blast because we've got three great projects we want to talk about. And Ignacio is drawing while he watches and listens. So you know what? I feel like I'm making comics.
It's rough out in Tucson, man. I'm sorry. You know? I can get a little crazy, you know. You guys need John to join you guys with that voice, man. That's a smooth voice. I was like, I would have kept listening. You know, the Golem stuff. You know,
that was literally the first like pink slip race that's ever happened during our show. So I really hope that the good guy won, because I feel like
over any time, man. It's a nightly thing.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull up the page for the Golem of Venice Beach, and love to talk about how this. How did this project land in your lap? And if you could tell the audience your job on it. I've already read the page, so I know, but I'm going to let you give us the history of how you became part of this project.
Sure. I got into freelance editing after having owned a comic shop and did some self-publishing that was fairly successful and made a few books for Dark Horse. And my role was never really to be full-on editor. But when that stuff, we closed down the store and the press around 2016, and I had some health issues. And by the time I sort of wanted to get back in the game, a few years later, 2019, I figured I'd try out freelance editing, basically, trying to put books together. And Hanan Beiser, who is the creator and writer of the Golem, contacted me through a post I made on in a Facebook group, of all things, but I guess that's kind of, you know, I guess that's how things get done nowadays. But yeah, I just posted some of my credits, and I'd won some Eisner Awards and mentioned some of the stuff I'd done.
Wait. Let's not just kind of zip like the motorcycle past. You won a couple Eisner Awards?
Yeah, well, I made a book called Little Nemo Dream Another Dream. That was fairly successful and got a lot of different awards and stuff, and a couple Eisners were part of the package. So yeah, and it had a lot of great people in there, some of whom were in Golem. Bill Sienkiewicz was in there, and that was back in 2015. People could still find it. I know Bud Plant has it, little plug for Bud. but But yeah, Nan had seen my post and mentioned I made a couple books for Dark Horse called Once Upon a Time Machine books. And through the nature of my work, although I hadn't made a ton of books, I'd worked with a million creators, and Hanan had come to me. He had the script for it, and he had said to me, and we joke about it a lot, but he'd said, he really he wasn't getting any younger, and he wanted to make a splash, and he wanted a certain amount of firepower. And once I realized he was serious about it, I worked with Bill before and Jay before, Paul before, and reached out, I think to Bill first, and because when I read the script and there were scenes about the creation of a golem in 1590 Prague, I just thought I couldn't really see anyone besides Bill doing it if he would, So once he said yes, it makes things a lot easier. Other people started to say yes. Jay Lee joined in, and Jay actually wound up designing the golem character for us. And then the other artist interpreted it through that design. We found the really amazing Vanessa Cardinale, who is I like to call her the engine of the book, because she drew the main narrative, and it's very fair to say with all these great artists, the book wouldn't exist without her. So we found her in the same group that Hanan found me, another Facebook group called Connecting Writers and Artists or something like that. And and then the job was really to match up. When I read the script, it was a great script. We did some work on it, and it was just really about trying to match up. Hanan had some flashbacks. He had a prologue, and we wanted to surround Vanessa with artists we thought would really accentuate what she did and sort of elevate things and bring different touches to it, scenes that might not really deserve, or not deserve, but might not have room for a full scene in a book. But now we could show the Santa Monica Pier and have Paul Pope draw it and make it awesome. And so, yeah, it's kind of how it came together.
No, that's an amazing story. And yeah, you said it, a murderer's row of artists, but taking these disparate elements, 400-year history, and giving us 10 pages here, giving us, from reading the thing, I'm guessing about 6 pages in World War II and present day, etc. And using different artists is such a unique way to tell the story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, no, it was real fun to put together. And to Hanan's credit, he was very serious about the kind of book that he wanted to make. And luckily, like I said, I'd worked with some, like Steve Bissett was in my Nemo book. And I see you're scrolling past his artwork. And, Steve is semi-retired, I guess you would say, hasn't done a ton of interior stuff. I know he did a SpongeBob story, which I loved because I'm a SpongeBob fan. But, he hasn't done much besides that. But I had a good relationship with him when we did the Nemo book. And luckily, he was able to come out and he wound up going from doing 1 page into a little 2-page. We call it the Phantasmagoria because it's just kind of creepy, and you have to kind of soak into it to really say what's going on here, So, yeah.
Why did you let Bill phone this image in for the cover?
Sometimes you just give an old guy a break, like, hey, here you go, like take it easy, and I've said to him before that it's cliche and it almost sounds trite, but it's like that's a work of art, It's not just a lot of great covers. I'm just backing up for a second. You guys who have the unicorn head cover, I said in an email to Kevin, that cover's awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. Heather Vaughn did a fantastic job on that.
Yeah, that's a great cover. Love it.
Yeah, we love that. We've got some great art. All of the projects have great interior and cover art.
Absolutely.
So when you're working with an artist where this is his a writer where this is his first script, was there a lot of work catering his story into a comic form, or was it pretty much there on the page, or how did that work with somebody who was coming into comics with his first published comic? I don't know if he's written other comics before.
This was Hanan's first script, his first comic script, and he has a background in film and production, but this was his first comic script. And outside of the fact that structurally we had work to do, originally, there was just things that we needed to move around and put into place. but a terrific script. I've been doing a lot of this since me and Hanan started 3 years ago on Golem. In the last couple of years, I've especially ramped up doing a lot of freelance, and I do work with a lot of new writers. And his script wasn't really, outside of some structural stuff, it wasn't anything like a new writer. He knew what he was doing, and even the flashbacks and stuff that can be tricky in a genre narrative. It can get a little unwieldy, or the transitions were kind of there in place already. So he did a great job on it. It was just all about finding the right artist to elevate different material.
Where do you go from, oh, this is my first script, and by the way, Bill Sienkiewicz is doing it? I mean, what? Next, I
imagine it feels pretty good, right? I think Hanan's in heaven. Yeah, no, and Bill just actually, Bill's pages have been done for a while, but we're in the, and I'm sure you guys can all relate, we're in the get the files to the printer phase of things, and as Bill was doing that just a couple of days ago, his final files were, he even went in and punched things up, and it's like it's like almost seeing a whole new batch of pages. So Bill's Bill. What a treat to have him. 7 interior pages. He kicks off the book with a 7-page prologue and the wraparound cover, and I think there's going to be some. I know somebody's showing off some of the let's call them rejected covers, just to make it sound scandalous, but the rejected covers are being shown off somewhere soon. So great guy, and just a great collaborator, and as legendary as he is, he doesn't act like it one drop, so it's a real pleasure.
Now, I have one story with him at a comic convention in Manhattan. It was way before New York Comic Con existed. It was at this hotel, and David Mack was at this table, and Bill was at this table, and
that makes sense.
I talked. Yeah, there was some pretty good art in that little area, and it's kind of like David, and Bill was there, and my friend was a huge Daredevil and Elektra fan, so he's like, I gotta talk to Bill, and I was like, okay, of course. But we walk over, and just here's the deal. Everybody who hasn't tabled at a convention, if you're not Bill, you really try to make your table really organized and gorgeous and in some sense of order. And if you're him, there's just artwork everywhere on top of each other.
Stack of artwork, some markers, and
there might be a book. I don't know. There's artwork this high, and there's this Elektra painting on top of it, and my friend really wanted it, and so he asked me, he's like, well, how much is that? And this is not he wasn't being considerate. He goes, 5,000. And then he went back to his conversation, and I just stepped way back away from the $5,000 painting, because I figured if I spit, I'd have to buy it, and I did not have it. But I was like, I was standing next to it. It was so worth it. There was no reason why you shouldn't buy it for 5,000. But no, I definitally backed away from
now
the
that you
table
have
at
all
that
this
point.
podcast money,
Absolutely.
This podcast money.
As soon as I get a time machine, I'm going to take the 17 cents we've made, and I'm going back there.
17 cents? You're holding out on me, man.
But no, really, really excited for this book. It's a hardcover. I am assuming, but I will ask, is this a one and done? Is there a possibility of other stories in this universe?
I think we're doing pretty good right now in terms of the campaign, and we have some things in place, and I think if the book's successful enough and the readership enjoys it, that there would definitely be possibility to tell other tales in the world that Hanan created. Without a doubt, there's a lot of characters people have come to know, and there's like this vast tapestry of time from when he's created by Bill in the late whatever it is, 1590s. So there's a lot of potential. Right now it's all up to let's see how this one does, and if people like it, I imagine Hanan would enjoy trying to tell some more stories in that world.
All right. You've got over 600 backers.
I would enjoy trying to put the same kind of talent around him again. So it would be fun to do if it happens.
Yeah, good luck with that, Barb. But I'm excited to see what you do.
Sure. Thank you.
let's go back and we went this way. Let's go back, John. Let's do a deep dive into Scorpio. I'm going to pull up the page. How did the idea for this book come to you? What was the earliest genesis of Scorpio?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still like thinking about St. Cabbage.
I'm just grabbing some coffee.
Feel free to tell any stories about any positive stories about any professional creator out there. We try to keep it positive. So if anybody was a shithead to you, we won't go through that. But if they're cool, you can tell them.
The only stories I have about Bill are bad, so it's,
okay. So you can't talk about them. That's fine.
No, I'm kidding.
But no, to answer the question, the idea was like, I don't know, it's like one of those things that's kind of swam around for a while in my head. And funny enough, I was never the big like astrological person initially. I know it might sound sacrilegious to people who enjoy the book or are interested in the book. Like, what? You don't even like it? I do, but like it's my wife that was more. she's more gung ho about it, right? It's always like my wife. She doesn't write like stories and stuff, but she can. It's infuriating because she's always coming up with good ideas, and I'm like, write it. But anyways, she was. She's always talking about the zodiac and stuff like that. And I'm like, you should write a story about this. She's like, no, I'm not gonna write it. Like she says to everything. Like I'm not gonna do that story. So I'm like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll ascribe something to this. And I think what really gets me about the zodiac in general is just that everybody, like one of my taglines is everybody has a sign, because everybody's always talking about, Taurus are like this, or Scorpios are like this, or whatever. Wife's always making jabs at me about being a Scorpio, and I'm always making jabs at her about being a Virgo and stuff like that. And but then there's like this other like kind of supernatural element in the real world. You know what I mean? Like kind of like not real powers and stuff, but like this idea of like your horoscope, like a cosmic kind of a feeling, right? And I was like, well, what if we take that and we take it a step further in a comic book and put it like ascribe these mystical elements to it, and that's where that idea kind of came from. So it started off, the concepts started off relatively simple. Hey, zodiac signs, powers based on your signs, and then it quickly evolved into a very thematic story about give and take, push and pull, faith, belief. There's a lot of introspection for each character. Stuff like that. There's a lot of internal conflict. The external conflict is the cool, flashy stuff, but there's some very clear thematic through lines that start forming when you're reading the story. So, that's kind of where the idea initially came from.
Where did I'm going to give away a tiny bit of issue 1. Daniel seems to be the lead character in the first issue, and he is the CEO of a high-tech security company.
Right.
And a force is coming into his home, and we find out that it's stealing this thing that he really inherited from his father, this power that he ignored, and to do the security for the high tech kind of Tony Stark thing. He kind of wanted to be Tony Stark and not Shang-Chi to put it in Marvel.
Right, exactly.
So where did you come up with, and what interested me the most was that the little sister stayed with all of the fighting techniques that he had given up. So where did you come up with this family that seems to me to be, at least in issue 1, the focus?
Right. Yeah. The Shem family is definitely an important family. Or they have an important dynamic. Like their background is important. So Danny was always going to be the guy who some road rage going on. No, Danny was always going to be the guy who shucked the responsibility. Right. He was always going to be the guy who was like, no, I'm scared of this, because it's kind of like, I think everybody has a little bit of, I don't know, like, or at least me. I don't want to say everybody. That's not really true. I don't want to speak to everybody, but me, I think if somebody like slapped a mystical weapon on my back and said, "Hey, go fight celestial beings." Um, I mean, maybe kid me would be like, "Oh, cool," but like adult me is like, "What?" It's like I got a life to live,
Right.
and that's kind of his mindset. I mean, honestly, that's part of the story. You're gonna actually learn more about that in issue 3, which is part of what's on this Kickstarter. But yeah, it was very much like he was the denial of the charge. Marcus is more or less the aloof, like, I don't know what's going on type of person. And Amy, who is the youngest, is ironically the most in tune with her spiritual side. And she's the one who like her, like the dad trained all of them in martial arts, So Marcus, funny enough, if you read the book, you see how goofy Marcus is. Marcus actually does know some martial arts. He doesn't really practice it, but he does know some. And Danny obviously knows some. The sister is the one who stuck with it because she feels, without giving away too much of the story, she feels like she owes her parents in a major way, and she owes her family legacy in a major way. And you'll find out more about that in future issues. But yeah, that's why she's like that, and why she ends up saving her older brothers in that first issue. But yeah, like I think their family dynamic. Somebody asked me recently, actually, on another show, why I chose to go with a Chinese family. And usually I I gotta be honest, like I usually default to black. I'm black, so I'm like, all right, main character's black. But that's the default though. Like it never truly ever does it stay like whatever my initial default choice is. It does. I usually I look at different possibilities because that's part of writing, right? Part of writing is, well, what if this? That's the what if question. What if they were, this background? What if they came from this world? What if they were rich? What if they were poor? What if whatever? And the what if of the Chinese American family hit because through talking with one of my friends who is also Chinese American, and the values that so like Taoism and give and take and karma, like those concepts are really powerful in the Zodiac, and it's also very powerful in a lot of Chinese culture. So that's why I decided to go with that, and yeah, it kind of fit really well. And when I tell you I do a lot of consulting, I do a lot of consulting because I am not clearly not Chinese American, so like I feel kind of like a little bit out of my area. So it's like I try to do my due diligence and do the research and definitely talk to people who do have that background to make sure that I'm hitting things properly and stuff like that. So
no, that's very smart. How did you find your the creative team around you, the artists? How did you get your team?
Yeah. So I just called up Bill Sienkiewicz and
He's not returning my calls, guys.
And it's just that easy,
right? No. So funny enough, I both recommend and caution this place I'm about to tell you, and I'm sure you guys all know it. DeviantArt. I both recommend and caution it. I can't stress that enough. Before I was ever involved in comics, I used to commission artists on DeviantArt. I've had many artists run off on me. I had a couple people who weren't even artists. They were stealing other people's art. So that's the caution story for DeviantArt. The positive story is that the vast majority of them are artists, and obviously they're very good at what they do. And I came across Viviana, who's the colorist on the book, very early in the project, and yeah, Vivi was all in. Like at the time, she was in. I mean, this is before we even started. Like this is obviously before we started, but like this is like back in 2016ish, so very early on. Yeah, she was an animation student. Is still in school, and she was like, I'll color some stuff. And she actually helped me find Marco, who's the main artist on the book. In the first issue, you see the artist is Caesar. In the second issue, it's Marco, and it should be Marco going forward. But yeah, she helped find Marco after that first issue, and yeah, like she's been like super helpful, like all the way. She's super down. She's like, look, no matter what else I'm working on, I'm like this. I'm always gonna be on this. Like, as long as time permits, blah blah blah. In terms of like me, like rushing her, and I'm like, look, I'll never rush you. Like, you're good. So like, I mean, now she's like big time animator. Like, she's like working for. I don't even think I could say some of the companies she's working for because
I would joke and say that we would edit it out, but we don't do that, and I'd
right. Yeah, no.
You would believe me. So don't say it. If you don't know if you can say it, don't say it.
Right. But she's
because we don't edit.
Come on, man, get someone in trouble. Go ahead.
She's
Get somebody in trouble.
Is what I could say, and I'm really proud of her. Like to be working with somebody and see them like as a student, and then see them like just continue, like go through the struggles of these submissions they got to do just to get declined. Like the work the artists go through is absolutely like that's why with more perspective, I'm like tangenting a little bit. With more perspective now in the comic world, y'all pay artists, man. Like anybody out there who's looking like. Don't do the thing where you're like, oh, exposure. No. They do too much work to like for exposure to be don't even propose it. It's honestly an affront to even propose the idea.
You know what, John? I'll jump in for 1 second. For 1 second, if you don't mind. Is that cool, guys?
Sure,
Is this like open forum?
Open.
All I would say is this, and obviously if the Golem book, the artist, nobody's working for free in there, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is this: I get a little frustrated when I see like the boards and stuff and the groups, all the social media stuff and these debates, because at the heart of things, you are correct. But I think that there's been like a rush in a lot of society, and especially in comics. Artists were underpaid for years. They're not anymore in general. If you're a working artist, you're not underpaid. You're making a pretty good living. If you can, if you get a following and you can earn your publisher's money, basically, or to just make your own following, like so many people are doing. Spike Trotman never needed a publisher. She's, you know what I mean? She built her own little empire. Right. But what I would say when you're saying like forget collaboration, my first Dark Horse book was 428 pages. And outside of a couple friends who came in and did a little something here or there, every one of those people was unpublished at the time.
Right.
And they wound up getting writing credits or artist credits, or a guy like Drew Moss goes on to have a long career at Image. And if they had held to what you're saying, none of them would have ever been in that book because there was no budget, even though it was a Dark Horse book. I don't know if anyone from Dark Horse is listening. Sorry, it was a long time ago. But $32 a page or something, right? So you know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, I'm just giving you a different perspective on it. Is all I'm saying. I would say never say never. Everybody should look out for themselves and make sure their situation is fair. But sometimes fair can be just a straight up collaboration. And I've met a lot of great artists that way. I did that with Ryan Otley when he was first getting started, and I've had great artists do it with me. So I would just say, never say never is all I'd say. Every situation deserves its own analysis and merit.
Yeah, right. I think that's totally fair. I do believe that if you're going to be working that way, you either need to be able to offer like a guaranteed something big, like you're going to have a Dark Horse credit for the rest of your life, or we're going to do a 5-page thing. And then that's, for an artist, 5 pages, do it one Saturday, 5 Saturdays in a row, and we're going to put it out there. Don't do what I did and my artist, Ludo. We're like, well, we're going to do this book, and then it'll get picked up by somebody, and then we'll make money, and then we'll split it. And, here we are, 6 issues
What's
in.
money, Kevin?
Yes. Six issues
guys
in.
know what money is?
Ludo and I are trying to live on podcast money, and I got to steal 17 cents from Will to do it.
I know these guys have money, though, to get that unicorn cover. You guys have money hidden somewhere to get that cover. That cover wasn't cheap.
I think that the most important thing is talk and try to be fair and try to give and find value for your collaborators, whether that's monetarily or whatever it is. But be open and communicative. And if you do find out that you've made a mistake, and do what Ludo and I did and go, wait a second, there isn't money right now, so I'm going to have to find a way to pay you and move forward. And thank God we have Kickstarter, which is how I can, because if not, there would be no more of my books. But when we're talking about books, John, how long is this series outline? What's your dream for this series to go? Ongoing, limited, maxi? What are you thinking for Scorpio?
Yeah, so we're outlined. I'm outlined at least 12 issues.
Okay.
It's definitely ongoing.
You would have to do 12 with the Zodiac.
I know. That's what I was
Oh, that was such a dumb question.
Well, it's out. It's probably gonna be longer than 12. It's
Okay.
outlined to 12. Like I know what's happening at least up to 12 issues. And of course, whenever I'm like actually doing the scripts, it stretches. Like I just got done with issue 4. I don't know how I thought the issue 4 was gonna be issue 4, because when I was in it doing it and I was actually writing the script, I was like, what was I thinking? This is 3 issues. Like, so yeah, like it gets, you get, depending on what's going on and your pacing, it gets stretched out, So yeah, this is definitely an ongoing book. So it's not like a mini series or anything like that. There's too much. Like you have 12 signs, right? So you have at least 12 characters, and then because we're dealing with relics, like I mentioned earlier, so there's power ascribed to each of these relics. The power is not ascribed to the person. So when people ask me like, well, who's the Scorpio? And I go, it's well, Danny, kind of. He is a Scorpio. But also so is Naomi, who is the other lady you see in she's also a Scorpio. And you find very quickly that in the story we're dealing with battles over these relics. So you have people who are on one side who initially they were protectors of all of them were good, right? Relatively. Well, over the course of the story, you find out that they're not all good. And then you get guys who are on one side who are literally trying to kill like the holder of, let's just throw out a random, like, I don't know, Aquarius. It's not Aquarius, but I'm throwing out a random sign. They're trying to kill Aquarius to give that Aquarius relic, like in their case, the Leviathan beads, to a bad Aquarius on their side, right? So it becomes very much a battle over these relics. As soon as you lose the relic, you lose the power associated with it, and the other person who, given that they have the correct sign, now has that power. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, if you are in the comments, please put your Zodiac sign in. When we're done, John's gonna tell us what the power for your Zodiac. Can you do that?
Right.
Is that a spoiler?
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's fine. Yeah, I tell people what their relic and the abilities are all the time. Yeah.
So in the comics, please put it in. But I do want to make sure we get to Band of Bards because we've got Tim and Cynthia here for that, and I don't want to. I want to get all 3 projects in, and then we can come back and talk about anything that comes up. So put it in the comments. And someone put in Sagittarius for me, because I don't know how to comment myself in the thing. So all right. Okay, so Cynthia, you did not do the 30-second pitch. So as I pull up the screen, you are now on the hot seat. How did you get involved in the Dark Side of Purity anthology?
Our curator/editor is Elise Russell, and she actually contacted me really early on and pitched it to me, asked me if I wanted to be involved in this project, which would be basically women speaking out about our feelings and thoughts about the current societal atmosphere of purity culture. And all of us, there's more than 30 of us involved now, which is really, I would say, exciting, except for it's such a dark topic. I don't think it's, exciting that there's so many of us involved because it's a lot of voices, but the topic is a tough one. And it was supposed to be something that came out in 2023, but we moved it up to now because of everything that's been coming out with losing women's rights in Roe v. Wade. The hardest thing, I think, for a lot of us is because so many women have been I don't know. I mean, the Me Too movement brought a lot of it out for a lot of us. And we've almost all of us in the project have experienced some form of sexual assault or sexual harassment, inability to obtain a job or any type of thing like that. And the entire idea around purity culture is that the idea of a woman's virginity or, brides have to wear white or any of that type of stuff is just how women are viewed in our culture. So we have a collaboration of poets, comic artists, and just prose writers that have just collaborated on these 2 books, which are full of just amazing pieces. Like the comics are pretty incredible. The art is amazing. And I've read a few of the poems and they're beautiful poems. The stories, I've read a couple of the stories, they're dark. Elise told me that she's like, well, I could try to get a couple of the artists to do a drawing for your story. And she said they found it too triggering. Apparently my story is dark. And I think a lot of that comes from like my story when I wrote it. After she contacted me, I wrote it right away, probably in a day. And it's based in rage, just from everything that I've experienced in my life is just rage from everything. I just poured it into that story. So
Did you find any comfort in telling that story? Did it get any of the rage out, or is it just still because
I think it did. I think it did. I find a lot of that comes out in a lot of my writing. And I think it's cathartic. Like one of my earlier books was a memoir of my childhood, and I thought that it would be cathartic to write that, and I still can't go back and read it. But I think using that in writing now is much more cathartic. It's just more of a focus on just how I feel and things like that, and doing this. And from what I've talked to some of the other creators, like we get on Discord and just chat things through, I think that a lot of them are finding it more cathartic too, just to channel their emotions into our art, our prose, our comics, our drawings, everything. So.
No.
Well, you have some pretty amazing artists. I noticed Rio Burton is doing like a 7 or 8 pager, right? And then Fellhound, Fell's a friend of the show, and we love her.
Yeah.
Is there a consistent colorist or a consistent letterer to tie in those comic stories, or is it just kind of each team handles that separately?
Yeah, at this point right now, we've just had like individual artists doing a piece for separately. I don't know about letterers, Tim, if we have anybody.
Miranda Layson is handling a lot of the lettering and a bunch of coloring duties. So right now it is planned as a black and white comic, and hitting full color is one of the stretch goals.
Right.
Well, Kevin and I, we love letterers. So I feel like if you're using a letterer pretty much for most of the comic stuff, that's going to add an extra bit of cohesiveness or connectivity to all those stories, besides the obvious themes and things that are going on.
Yeah, because each comic story will obviously have its own feel and artistic style. So having a consistent letterer or even just a consistent colorist, provides that consistency or continuity from story to story to help make it not feel so disjointed, which can happen in anthologies. So it's nice to have Miranda taking on such a workload.
No, it's nice. Kat Calamia and Phil Falco did that with By Visibility. They had Taylor Esposito lettered everything to give it that cohesive. But then I'm sure there are some that are so unique to the artist that you almost want a Fiona Staples feeling where the lettering, it's such a personal anthology that I bet you're going to have, you're going to want to break that rule at times as well. Charlie Stickney just said about The Dark Side of Purity, it's such an incredible looking project. It really is. I mean, it's one of those projects that you wish didn't exist because it shouldn't have to, but the fact that it does have to exist, I appreciate that you put the time and effort in. How were the teams brought together? I'm going to ask Tim. I assume you have a little more idea on how the teams were brought together for this. So how did that happen?
Yeah. So Elise Russell, who Cindy mentioned, she is one of our bards. We did Sentience with her just, the months are all blending together, but a couple months back. We have a few more titles planned with her this year and next, and probably on and on and on with everything that comes from her. This is something that if you listen to her tell it, it started as kind of her own personal project that she wanted to take on. And as she's developed it, it's at least a year that she's been working on this. She decided to open it up to more voices, more perspectives, and that's when it became the anthology that it is now. And she started reaching out to so many different creators. I mean, the amount of work that Elise did on this, and just going out, reaching out to folks, getting them to buy into the project, getting them to come in and take on something that can be really challenging, because Cindy mentioned, her piece was a little bit triggering for some of the artists, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say hers probably wasn't the only one. It's not been easy to read some of this stuff, myself. I ramble. So Lisa's
we have no end. We have no end time to this. We can go till. So you
good. No short answers with me. That 30-second elevator pitch was torture. So Lisa's been chatting with us for several months at this point about the project, what she wanted to do, and for me, a lot of this is quite personal as well. And those stories aren't mine to tell. They're people who I care deeply about. So I won't really go into saying this person, but a lot of us know plenty of women who mean quite a lot to us, who have been affected by this violence and the culture that just covers it up and it enables it. So it was something I wanted to jump on board with right away and use it as a way to take a shot back, right? It's a big project, obviously. It's something that was maybe not something that we were completely comfortable with as a new comics publisher, and knowing that some of it had to do with prose and poetry and putting together, a regular book and not a comic book. And we're like, all right, well, we don't totally know how to do that. Let's maybe explore doing like a co-publishing thing. Mm-hmm. Explored that, came back to the drawing board, and again, as Cindy said, we had been talking about doing this for like 2023. Give ourselves plenty of time to create a very cohesive plan, get a lot more of the work finished before trying to take it to a Kickstarter, and current events kind of accelerated that. And over the last 30, 60 days, all these attacks on Roe v. Wade, all these different bills coming out from all over the place. If you listen to the news, there's, a few hundred anti-abortion bills. There's, another few hundred anti-trans bills. Like, there's like, it's almost as if there's a dozen different bills of this type per state, which is insane. And when I approached Elise, say, what do you think of the possibility? Is it even like practical and feasible to accelerate the timeline on this? Can we maybe look to do that this year. Elise has her own private Discord with all of the creators, and we respect that space. We stay out of it, Chris and I. We have another one that we communicate with a smaller group of the creators and the publisher to coordinate everything. But Elise took it to the group, and it was unanimous. Everybody wanted to move forward with it this year. We was like, okay, let me take a look at our calendar and see what we have for space to at least, not do a haphazard Kickstarter, because we still want to do a quality as much as we can, even with the, crunch timeline. And we had a timeline, a window that we're in right now, and we had a window like more in August, September, and everybody wanted to go at it right now. So here we are. We have tried to communicate very well what this project is all about, the importance of it. The Oriana Leckert from Kickstarter was really awesome in helping guide a lot of this, because when I told her about it, she's all about it. She loved the idea. One thing to make sure you point out: you cannot take funds that you raise on Kickstarter to donate to charity. So I was like, okay. And she shared a couple of other campaigns that had done something where they used the Kickstarter to make production money, and then future, non-Kickstarter sales were for charity.
Right.
So what we're doing with this book is using the Kickstarter for production. So all the printing costs, all the creative costs, which a lot of the creators have graciously decided to donate their work to help this book be produced. The artists are all being paid, and they were again very kind to kind of ask for a little bit of a lower or reduced rate than what they normally would have been expecting. Again, this is a benefit book, so what we'll be doing then is all future sales that we make will be, all the profit will be donated to NARAL, which is a nationwide pro-choice advocacy group. Been communicating with them a little bit here and there just to get the permission to use their logos and stuff like that, because we'd like to be able to put that on the finished work. And yeah, so I'm sorry, I ramble.
No, no. I think you just gave us a history of the book, which is what we would, it's called Explain Yourself. So I'm really happy you're explaining yourself. Charlie Stickney put in the comments, Band of Bards for sure is doing good books and projects worth backing everything they're putting out.
Charlie's been awesome and has very generously backed everything that we've put out so far.
People have friends of the show, like he's like the villain of the show. Charlie Stickney, that
guy.
He's too likable, so we've got to try to cut him down at his legs every once in a while. But we
got to see if he likes golems and the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Check his horoscope.
We're losing that battle with Charlie. Everybody seems to like him no matter what we say. But so how did Band of Bards come to be, and what is Band of Bards outside of this anthology? And I do want to get back to the anthology, but I saw that comment and I thought, well, what is this publishing collective you have?
Sure. Yes, another long answer.
Yeah.
Poor Cindy. Not going to listen to me. Shortest way I can say it, right? This is something that kind of popped into my head in like 2015, 2016. I had finished up grad school, was moving on to the day job that I still have. And one of the things that had been simmering in my mind and had been turning over is a way to bridge a civil military divide that exists in American culture. I'm an Army vet. I get really bent out of shape over the representation of military service and veterans in mass media, right? There's no shortage of representation, but it's all pretty much shit representation, right? You've got, Christ, I was watching TV earlier, and there was another movie involving Navy SEALs, and then like some other Amazon series that's coming out all about Navy SEALs, and it's like that's all it is, right? If it's about military stuff, it's bang bang shoot 'em up, really cool special forces or Navy SEAL stuff, whatever. Like that's less than 1% of the people who really serve.
The only military show that I've ever believed to be true is Gomer Pyle.
Close. I mean, you're really dating yourself there. But I was gonna say the most accurate movies and TV shows that I can tell you would be MASH, the TV show, not the movie. The movie's kind of fucked up. And then the most accurate movie would be Stripes.
Really? Would not have expected that. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe MASH didn't shock me, but Stripes kind of did.
Yeah, no, Stripes is on the money in a lot of ways, especially with the dumb shit that privates do. Gosh. But sorry, that's what Chris and I started working on. I was like, hey, what would be feasible? I got the business background. I have a history degree, and then that didn't do anything for me, so I went back to grad school, got a business degree. So I got that side of it. Chris is the artist. He did the logo design. He does a lot of the in-house logo design, book production, design, all that stuff. So I asked him, and sorry, caveat, Chris and I grew up together, same hometown, played hockey together. Like, that's how we know each other. So, I asked him how difficult would it be if we wanted to interview vets, log their oral histories with, let's say, the Library of Congress, and have like an academic piece to this, and then take those and make like a graphic novel anthology, a couple times a year. Cool idea, right? Very niche, and a lot of things were going on with both of our personal lives at the time that just like that idea didn't flesh out. But we continued to talk about it over the years, and during pandemic, it really, like a lot of people, it's pandemic, let's do something new. We came back and decided, the heart of that original idea, right, was representation in mass media, and how so many different groups in society, especially marginalized groups, they get such terrible representation, and you get very tropey representation that tends to be like one or two different boxes that each person would fit into, and that's it. It's very sterile, and all it does is serve to continue to divide people. Storytelling should be about building bridges, creating empathy, showing one person how someone in another part of the country lives, or another part of the world has to grow up, right? Because we all exist in our own little bubbles, whether they're self-imposed or it's a bubble because I live in Buffalo. So there's a bit of a natural bubble there of living here that I think everybody, treats drinking and driving like a sport, which is pretty typical around Western New York. Turns out that's not really the case, and I didn't know that until I left Western New York, that not everybody had such problems. So
don't go to Wisconsin.
It seems to be a Great Lakes problem. That's what I've come to understand.
I think that it's a cold problem. If it's always 4 degrees, you're going to want to drink more.
Pretty much. That's what it is, right? And when I got sent to a bunch of places in the South, I'm like, you all think that I drink too much. I'm like, I think you're all weird.
Yeah, if you drink too much for the South, you might want to chill just a little.
Yeah, I have quite a bit as I've aged. But so that evolved, and we're like, this is what we really are trying to get at is, and for me, in my part, vets in this country get a soapbox for good and for bad. So why not use this bit of a soapbox to get a stand on, so I might reach all of 6 foot that way, and use it to create space for other voices. So that's what came to be with Band of Bards, and we put a lot of research, and I don't want folks to think that like we just came up with this great idea and like, yeah, well, cool, let's just go do this, go to Kickstarter and bro down, you know, like the underpants gnomes in South Park. Like we put a lot of hours of market research, understanding as best as you could how publishing works in comics, because you know there's a lot of a lot of proprietary information that you're just not going to get at, and you have to extrapolate a little bit of it, and you have to kind of just get out there and talk to retailers about different things. And you know, we studied so many different other independent publishers, you know, kind of looked at, okay, what makes up the top 10 publishers? Well, let's take those top 3 out of the picture.
Yeah.
look at the others, and then look at like who's maybe about to crack into that, and imagine, well, if we want to try to be at that cusp within 5 years, what would that take? What would that look like? Scout was certainly a company that we looked at in detail. Vault was another one. Gosh, we looked at Dark Horse just to understand their story, because it's a lot of the same kind of background as far as I understand it, and how Dark Horse kind of started off with, and obviously after 30 some odd years, they've done quite a bit, and it's just amazing to see how many different approaches there have been to making your own path in this. And that was kind of encouraging to us, because we certainly are not trying to just copy what other folks have done. We want to see what worked well for others, what maybe did not work well, and what to avoid, and you know, kind of just make this our own image of what a comic book company should look like. And one of those things was, what would a employee-owned publisher look like? Because myself, I'm a union guy. I've been a Teamster before. I'm AFGE now, so that's important to me, right? I am excited for the idea of Band of Bards being very successful, and in the next handful of years being able to hire some employees and to have them become unionized employees in the comics world. That'd be cool.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you're kind of building a place for people's voices that don't necessarily have to be your own. That's what I'm sort of hearing from this anthology and what you put together, and that's very commendable to kind of build that platform.
Yeah.
There's
enough voices like mine.
Yeah. I have a question.
Me and Will.
Yeah.
Chris.
I have a question for Cynthia. Your contribution is actually prose. It's not a comics.
Right.
Is that right?
That's correct.
I'm curious. Have you considered comics, or is there something that obviously you feel comfortable in prose. Is there, is comics something you maybe want to try in the future?
It's funny because comics was something I used to read a lot, but as an adult I kind of like moved away from them. And that's probably the one area I really haven't like tried yet now as a writer. But it would be interesting. I had actually thought about talking to Elise. I know she's a writer of comics, and I thought about talking to her about like, how did you get into that? And because I think Danny is the one that she works with for art.
Well, if you need an editor, my friend Chris Stevens knows a lot of really amazing artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to try to talk about like, how did you get into that? Like, what's the technique she comes up with for storylines? You know what I mean? Because it would be fun to like try to do it. It's like the one area I haven't like tried. I've tried all different genres. I kind of tend to stick to horror and stuff like that. But it would be neat to try. I think it'd be fun to try.
You sounded, you were very passionate when you were speaking earlier about your, what the book is to you and your part in it and the other people. And I would just say, I didn't want to interrupt you when you were saying it, but keep it's, the dam doesn't break all at once. Keep writing, keep making your stuff. I think it was inspiring listening to you. So
Thank
keep
you. I
making
appreciate
stuff. Keep rolling that rock.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, I'm definitely, passionate about writing. Yeah,
Well, I felt the passion, so.
yeah.
Yeah, I just also wanted to say, real quick, if I can, this project, so writing should come from a place that is profound to us. It should come from a place it should mean something. And clearly there's a lot of passion for good reason with this project, and then not just this project, but the explanation of how the group was created is Band of Bards, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Band of Bards. Yeah, the way that group was created, even that's from a place of passion. Looking to explore different perspectives, especially the military bit. I was in the military a short time. Did my, I was probably one of the dumb privates.
That's okay. I was probably a lieutenant that you would have cussed out.
I quickly got specialist and then stopped getting the dumb private rep. But but I did I got out before I went sergeant. I did go to the board though. But I went to the board, but they urged me to go even though I was getting out. But I was like, you know what, I'll do it so that I could do it. You know what I mean? Since I'm bouncing anyway. But no, like that passion of the formation, like there's just so many different intersections of what is it? I guess demographics, backgrounds. You got different cultures, whether it be like race based.
We've used the term social groups.
Yeah, social groups.
That's one thing. Like, well, sexuality doesn't cover it all. Like, race isn't all.
Right.
There's so many different things, and like demographics sounds like you're in a marketing class.
Exactly. Yeah, I was looking at social groups. I like that word, social groups. It's like a lot of intersections. Because even me being black and then being military, right? Like that's its own intersection.
Hell yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's, I mean, there's the getting pulled over by a cop. And not saying that they come to me angrily or anything like that, but I get pulled over, and as soon as they see my military ID, the vibe changes completely, right?
Unless you were in a military town, and then they
right.
really
That's true.
Oh man.
but them assuming I'm a civilian and then see my military ID, then like the vibe changes, So there's like a lot of different, like I like that the group is formed to like explore these different. I guess social groups, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah,
That's one thing I understand too, because like my husband is ex-Navy too, and he always says that about movies too. Like he's like, that is so inaccurate. Like we went to the new Top Gun movie, and he's like, it's all about Navy pilots and stuff, and he was a green shirt on an aircraft carrier, and he's like, that would never happen. All the time. Yeah, actually his carrier was the Kitty Hawk.
Oh wow!
Which just arrived in Texas, and they're decommissioning it and tearing it down.
Wasn't the Kitty Hawk used in one of the movies?
I
might.
I don't. They might have a shot of it. I think it might have been a shot of the carrier group. Yeah. And then like the first one, I think, but it's not. Yeah.
And these tropes are so dangerous because it's so easy to see something in books, movies, TVs 4, 5, 6 times, and that's literally then what you write. The latest script I wrote had a crime scene, and I wrote a chalk outline on the floor in my script, and my editor wrote back, I don't think this actually happens. and I was like, what are you talking about? And she sent me the information, and no, there is no chalk outlines. The only time anything like this ever happened, they would put some tape down to show newspaper photographers where the body was, but that has nothing to do with crime scene analysis. So I had written something completely inaccurate, completely wrong, because why would you put something on every TV show I've ever seen? I don't watch CSI. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe if I watch CSI, I would know. But and that's in the big scheme of things, that's not as important a mistake as some of these other tropes we're talking about. But it's illustrative of how easy it happens.
honestly, sometimes it can be dangerous because if you look at like every medical show, every show where somebody like their heart stops and a person is in flatline, they shock them. That's so fake. That you never shock flatline.
Oh.
You do compressions. So like the fact that they do that, like if you went and got like
No, it's adrenaline to the heart. I know this.
you do compressions. You do compressions because flatline means the heart is stopped. If you shock, you cannot shock a heart back into rhythm. You have to do compressions. I was an RT for 10 years. I was a respiratory therapist for 10 years.
Well,
And-
if you don't mind the pun, that's just not as electrifying. Sorry.
Right? Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you were at a place where a person's heart stopped and you like checked them and they had no pulse, they could die.
Yeah.
If they could die if you didn't know what to do correctly. Like, and I've been at the hospital where somebody flatlined and people were like wanted to shock them. I'm like, you work in a hospital, like you should know. You should learn compression. Yeah. So same thing, like these tropes. And the worst thing is, it does happen for women too. Like when people see things in movies, like where if you ask the girl out and she says no, you just ask again, just keep pursuing her.
Sean Connery, James Bond.
Exactly.
Yeah.
50 no's and a yes means yes. No,
Yeah.
like that's not what happens. He says no, walk away. But it does happen. So
We just watched a comedy set right before this show. It was actually Kev on Stage's comedy set. He does like his Keep Your Distance comedy show. And they were talking about the thing, like the last guy's set was about how guys are creepy. And he was talking about old school love songs, how in all the old school love songs, they just like kind of creepily go after the girl, or they imagine this relationship that's not even real in their head for the girl.
right.
And it's the whole love song. It's not even real. Like it's the, I see you, I'm watching you from my window, and
The Police, yeah.
we're like, that's the jam, But it's like, actually, when you listen to those lyrics, that's really creepy, man.
I mean,
I'm watching.
with the tropes, it can go a big spectrum between like just kind of silly, goofy stuff like the chalk outlines, or it could serve to just very easily otherize different groups. And when you go with tropes that borderline on very destructive and harmful stereotypes, right? It's the kind of thing where if you don't have the personal firsthand experience with a group of individuals, you start to buy into the different things that your friends will tell you about them, and that's when you start thinking that like every military vet is a colonizer. But I don't know, that's where you get things where people are convinced that trans folks are walking into the bathrooms that they shouldn't be going into to like be perverts, and you have all these bathroom bills and all the fear mongering coursing around something like that. And it's like, just go talk to somebody different than yourself. Go read a book written by someone different than yourself and understand how it is that they had to grow up in America or in another part of the world. It's the whole point of literature, is to see the world through someone else's eyes.
I would even say that's the point of art.
Right. I was gonna say, I think honestly, like that's one of the things I really like about our anthology is, like you were talking about a social group. I mean, we have 30 creators, and a large number of them are not from the United States, which is fabulous. I think you're getting the viewpoint of women from around the world.
Yeah,
What happens in our society here, it's all around the world.
It certainly is a topic that serves to illustrate the intersectionality of harm being done. And you can apply that in a lot of different ways, right? Purity culture, systemic racism, they're power structures. They're tools of power structures that are used to keep other people at the bottom and, admit people at the top in the club. And these people in the middle are kind of being teased, thinking that they can get into the club, but they can't.
Yeah. Or they're allowed in the club, but security is watching them for one misstep, so they can be escorted out immediately.
Yeah, there's honestly there's so many levels to it. There's the very serious level like Tim was just talking about, you know, where you're actually harmful, like you're misleading people with things that aren't true. And then there's just the creator level, like you're gonna take somebody out of a story if something's not accurate. Like if we're using, I don't know, IT or what's IT is easy because I work IT. Military.
Me too. Yeah.
So like in the military world, like I don't know, like I don't. There's a lot of military shows where they do like where they're trying to be like kind of middle ground between lighthearted and serious, right? And some of the scenes are just like really. There's certain things that are really cringy, like that you wouldn't know unless you had done military or at least spoke to some military people, like calling your. Like you never call your weapon a gun, like for example, you know what I mean? So like when I'm watching a show and they say give me the gun, a military soldier saying give me your gun, it's like what? Or walking outside with your PC off, or calling your PC a hat, or or you know walking with like military soldiers walking with their hands in their pocket. And granted, some things may have changed since I've been in, so maybe some of that stuff's allowed now. But
I was a big advocate of hands in pockets
well,
and walking on grass.
Yeah. It's like there's certain things that are just like the weapon one was one of the biggest cringe things for me, and it's a little bit of a culture shock because I guess the police are a little less like the military than I thought, because I work with the police. I work for City of Sandy Springs and here down here, and the police call their weapons guns all the time, and I'm just like. That's so weird. They're just like, yeah, we're going to clean our guns. And I'm like, your guns or your weapons, you know. So it's like little nuances like that that you just wouldn't know unless you were a part of that social group. You know what I mean? Or if you talk to them.
Where you then get into the dangerous part is when you've got those movies and that media where they're out acting like a bunch of reckless cowboys, right? And you've got cops looking at that and be like, yeah, that's what we gotta do. We gotta be like that. And it's a simulacrum of the real thing being portrayed by Hollywood, and then your actual real cops are going out and being jackasses because that's what they see on TV. And then you've got other grifters going around the country doing military or doing police training, feeding them that kind of garbage.
Right.
And now, and then you've got the massive problems that we have in this country because of that.
Well,
We were watching.
the propaganda. You know, there's the tremendous. I mean, what's they call it? Is, you know, propaganda, where you know police are always right, and that's not even close to being the case, unfortunately.
Except for any police that work with John, we're sure that you guys are all great and perfect. And John didn't say that. Some guy in Arkansas did.
I mean, I will say from what I see. I mean, granted, so not to get into the whole police blah 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 thing, but like to be fair, I'm sure in most cases, be working with them directly. I'm just the IT guy to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like oh, it's IT. They see me. Hey, what's up, IT? You know, and it's just kind of like, you know, they to me they seem, you know, they're cool or whatever. But anybody can seem cool until you're in that stressful situation. So who knows?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Who knows? And then like what Tim mentioned about the training, the guys that go around do the training. Oh man, like the stuff on that is actually scary. The stuff that the culture behind it, they're teaching them this stuff, man. It's like it's part of their culture. They're teaching them how you like once this person does this, then you treat them like this, like immediately they become like subhuman. And I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about a criminal. Like at this point, this person is a criminal, and once they're a criminal, you get to treat them like subhuman now. Yeah. It's crazy. Like,
And part of it comes from, we were watching Dirty Harry, one of the Dirty Harrys. I don't know if it's the actual one called Dirty Harry.
Oh man,
where
you're gonna trigger me now.
Yeah, he's going after the serial killer, and he finds him, and the guy won't say anything, so he just beats the tar shit out of him. Beats the tar shit out of him, and finally the guy tells him where the body is, and so he goes. They find the body of the victim. And the lily-livered DA comes in and is like, you tortured him. We've got to let him go. And then the guy goes on and kills like 9 other people. And the whole point of the movie is this cop who tortured somebody and did break 19 laws in torturing him. But the guy was bad. He's a killer. But it's the lily-livered DA that let him go, and it's just like this insane. If you watch it with a lens of this guy's held up in the 80s as the greatest cop that has ever been, and you're just watching him just beating the crap out of and torturing somebody, and it's just like it's insane to watch, and I'm sure there are some little kids that grow up saying, "I want to be Dirty Harry when I get older," and hopefully they learn that's not right by the time they got their badge. And I'm going to leave that comment at that because some people learn and some people don't.
You've got a whole generation of men who are raised watching Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, going around acting parts on a screen that they had no clue about themselves. John Wayne did a great job of avoiding the draft in World War II in Korea. You had a lot of actors who went and actually served and then didn't make a bunch of bullshit movies being paper tough guys. Clint Eastwood served in the army and managed to keep himself stateside during the entire Korean War. I served with guys who, in an ironic twist, stayed in Korea while we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we laugh about how they had been extended there time and time again to dodge combat. And I got to put my hands down because I'm shaking, and the anger over those things still resonates. And with the real harm that then translates into society is that you've got so many boomer men who were raised by watching those guys and thinking that is the epitome of manhood, and then try to emulate it. So they're basically being wannabes of wannabes. And then they try to raise their sons just like that too. And I tell you, it doesn't really work out too well. Especially when a lot of those boomer men did what they could do to avoid their own war while still trying to talk about being tough guys. You had your opportunity. You didn't follow through on it. You don't get to continue to lecture other people about what being a man and being tough is, because you are the absolute opposite of that.
Well, it is 12:24 on my end. I have really enjoyed this. I know some people are probably tired. Some people are probably hungry. And I could probably stay talking to you guys till about 4 a.m. my time, but I know other people have things to do. I do want to, I think I only saw one in the comments. John, what power set does an Ares get? For Shawnee.
I had the same question.
So Ares' relic is the Caliburn, which is it's another term for the Excalibur. So depending on your story, depending on your take, depending on the world. In this world, it's called the Caliburn. So way back when Arthur get the sword from the stone, it just so happened that he was able to do it because he's Ares.
Okay. That's clever. I love that.
Right. So it wasn't because he was the chosen one, but he happened to be the most worthy Ares at the time, and the most spiritually in tune Ares. So I guess you could say he's worthy in some ways, but he had to be Ares to pick it up. Prior to that, one of his knights, Gareth, had picked it up and realized he did, and then put it back. It was like, crap. But anyways, Gareth, after some things happened, to not spoil full backstory, after some things happened, Gareth picked it up and he became the Herald of Ares. While you hold the relic, you are immortal. Like age wise, you're immortal. You can still be like killed, but you're I guess you call it age of immortality or whatever. But basically the holder of the relic is they become more physically strong and more invulnerable the longer that they hold their relic. So that guy's had it. The current guy has had it for over a millennium. You can nuke him and he's fine. I think you have to like do something clever, like drown him or shoot him into space or something to kill him. Like, because physically he's unharmable, and strength wise he's pretty, you know, he can do some Hulk level type things. You know? So.
Yeah.
Well, I need to know what Leo is then.
Yeah. So yeah, Leo has the lion's heart, and Leo has flame based powers. So
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
that does it for me. That takes care of me too. So, guys, my wife just got home from work, and I should probably go and be a good husband. So,
All right.
I really enjoyed this. Great to meet you guys, and your campaigns are both going right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome.
Maybe Kevin, maybe you could send a link, and would that be cool afterwards?
I will absolutely email links of the campaigns that are running. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
It was great to meet you.
Hey, I got to ask you, Will. Will, are you Mike's brother?
No.
Oh man, you want to laugh? These guys set me up. Well, I'll leave you all with a joke.
Well, it's funny because my son's name is Mike. So
when they reached out to me and said, "Hey, this podcast," and they said it's Mike Allred's brother, and Mike Allred's obviously in the Golem book, right? So this afternoon, I sent him an email, and I said, "Hey, Mike, I'm doing a podcast with your brother Will. Give me a couple zingers I can use." And I'm sitting here as the show kicks off, going, "Damn, he never replied." Well, now I know why.
Now you know why. Probably distantly related, but
I want to very clearly state I did not say that it was related to Mike. But I will, if that is the only way we got you on to talk, I'm gonna take it and appreciate it.
Anytime you want, man. This is great. And I really look forward to checking you guys' books out a little bit more when
Likewise.
send the links over. So this was great. Sorry I got to run, but you guys have a great night.
yeah, you too. Thanks for
Cheers.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh, that's really funny.
No relation. Although, yeah, my son, I named my son Mike, not after Mike Allred, after somebody else. But
Yeah.
there you go.
Oh, that is really fun. I bet that is. They're like, yeah. Well, I mean, it's in relation. Oh, wow. All right. Well, we'll take it. My co-host for next week is somebody who has the last name Snyder.
Looks like we lost Cynthia as well.
Yes.
Nice to meet you, Cynthia. And
I'm going to ask about Sagittarius because, I mean, come on. I got to do it for him.
Yeah. Sagittarius Relic is a little bit different.
Yeah, we are.
They're called the Ethereal Mist. So they're not even, it's in gaseous form, right?
That's very true, and I think that's me.
So there's the idea that Sagittarius, if they want, Sagittarius don't like to be bothered, or when they don't want to be bothered, they are, they're very kind of like, I won't be bothered. Like I just won't put up with you. So that's why they have phasing abilities. That's what the Ethereal Mist give them. And actually, the current Herald, her name is Queen Almasi. She was I won't give her an entire backstory, but she's also very old, way back, freed her people from slavery, and then went around freeing other people from slavery, and they continue to do that throughout the years with her abilities. And but yeah, she keeps the Ethereal Mist like in this little bulb, and she infuses them with these African lotus petals, and she's just like smoking them all the time.
I like that mist superpower because, I mean, it's not, you can almost kind of actually do that in real life if you eat a lot of kimchi. Yeah, just have this little gaseous exit.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's more the other people exit you, but it's the same.
Right.
When I was having a bad day in Korea, I would have a lot of kimchi at lunch, and the office that I had to share with like 6 other guys would be all to myself.
Oh, my goodness. That's a way to clear them out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well,
Will, what are you?
Capricorn. I am a
Capricorn's actually, she's already shown up in the book too. The other ones that you guys have mentioned so far had not shown up yet. They show up. Aries shows up in 4. But yeah, Capricorn kind of cameos in number 2. And she has so the relic is called the Witcher's Sash, and it's a piece of fabric that can turn into any other fabric. But the actual power that people say that Capricorns are very materialistic, right?
Yeah, that's Will.
That's definitely.
I mean, I see all the
I got a lot of books, man.
Did you see how mad? You see how mad he got when I didn't share that 17 cents?
That's right.
right.
But I couldn't be bothered.
But yeah, Capricorn manipulates matter, so
Cool.
very, very powerful. Very seemingly very powerful. And everybody kind of has a power that makes them seem like, oh well, that's overpowered. Like Ares, you can't hurt him. Like that's ridiculous. She manipulates matter. That's ridiculous. But like, for example, if you were to like pair those two, because Ares is physically unharmable, she wouldn't be able to like just rend him to pieces because she can't hurt him physically. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's like checks and balances with their abilities. But yeah.
When you came to do this, was there did you write it all down and try to balance them a little bit? I know that it seems to kind of come a little bit from the preconceived notions of each sign, but did you kind of go, oh well, I can't do this too much because then
Right, yeah, there's levels. Yeah, there's levels. Like for example, Bonnie, who's the current Capricorn, she's very good with her abilities and manipulating matter, right? But a new person picking that relic up is not going to be able to just like, you know, Thanos snap you.
right.
So yeah, there are levels, and yeah, there was like in terms of like using the abilities. Yeah, I was very much thinking about this, like what happens when like Cancer, who has force field abilities, comes in contact with Queen Amalfi, who, or you know, the Sagittarius with phasing abilities. Can she phase her force fields, or is the force fields one thing that her phase abilities she can't phase through? You know what I mean? You know, like that kind of thing. Can
unbiased? I do believe the Sagittarius powers would overpower. That's an unbiased,
completely unbiased.
Yeah,
Unbiased opinion. I got you.
So yeah, there are definitely like those are definitely something. And to be honest, all of them I haven't completely in stone defined them, because some of them are gonna have to be decided in those moments, like when those characters come across each other in the book. You know what I mean? But yeah, there was a lot of back and forth with the magic system. Like, you know, as far as the checks and balances, you know, like Libra can literally either kill or resurrect people, destroy and create things, but she has to do everything in balance. So if she wants to resurrect her friend, she's got to kill somebody, you know. And
that's interesting. The scales, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
that's really cool. I wanted to say Viviana's coloring is amazing.
Oh yeah,
that's a gorgeous work. I'm
gonna pull that up again while we talk about it real quick, because it is gorgeous.
She does an incredible work, like absolutely incredible work.
It is amazing.
If there's one thing that will always get me to buy a comic, it's that really vivid mix of like purples and pinks and blues, and it brings me in. It's like the Transformers comics that IDW is doing right now.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Like I have absolutely loved that.
Oh yeah, run. And that where they're at there, that realm, they're not like in that scene there. They're not in an earthly realm. They're in this realm called the Lasco. Yeah, the Udon-Rashi is the place in that realm that they're at right now.
That is so cool.
It stands for like Zodiac Garden, right? But yeah, it's that place is it's meant to feel like ethereal, you know. And yeah, and so many people have like contributed. Like so, like the feel of that place actually came from an African artist named Bill, good friend of mine. Bill, man, I was butchered his last name. I think it's Masaka. He's gonna kill me. but no, Bill's a real good dude, and he did like a mini comic, and that was the first time that the last call was drawn into like visually drawn. Like I had it defined before, but it wasn't drawn yet. So he defined like the feel of it. So the Vivi looked at his comic and she was like, "Oh man, that looks cool." And then she started. She came up with the colors based off of it. There's really a lot of collaborative work, you know.
It strikes me as like a very vivid and colorful Hibernia.
Hibernia?
Yeah,
Wait,
like,
what's Hibernia
like
from?
with Conan Comics.
Oh, okay. See, Conan is something I never got into. So like that was over my head. Yeah.
It's really, color has come so far. Because I was reading Ruination by Ryan Biss.
Yeah.
And there's just magic is color in that book.
Right.
And it's just so vivid. And you look at the colors in Bloom Pretty. From Lisa Moore.
Last Ember Press.
Press. The colors in that are just so vivid as well. I mean, there's
Meraki too, MK Palmer's Greek gods thing that's actually on Kickstarter right now. The color palette is very similar to yours as well. It's just kind of like, it's gorgeous.
And I think she has a new artist for that. Paper Cat, I think, is doing the interior art. Linnea, I think. If that might be right.
I don't know. We'll try to get her on next week. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see if she can come back.
We'll talk to MK.
I haven't talked to her to see if she can make it. She's but gentlemen, I do appreciate you coming, giving your time. I am really excited about the Dark Side of Purity. I'm excited about Scorpio. I'm excited about the Golem of Venice Beach. This will be a podcast, but in case somebody came in the last 10 minutes and like, what are these guys talking about? Tim, you get more than 30 seconds so that you can ramble a little, but people have been watching are probably tired. So one last pitch on the Dark Side of Purity.
Sure. This is a 2-book anthology of comics, prose, and poetry with a team of about 36 women and non-binary creators taking on the dark side of purity culture, the patriarchy, and all the profits will go to benefit NARAL, which is a pro-choice nationwide advocacy group.
Nice. Okay. And John, Scorpio, we've been talking about the powers, but let's talk about the comic again for a sec.
Yeah. So the project is currently live. It's the debut of number 3, and it collects volume 1, which is 1 through 3. So you can get both the number 3 floppy and the 1 through 3 collected edition if you like. And it's a comic about 12 relics that are affixed to the zodiac sign. And there's 12 protectors over each of these relics, which grants them a different ability. And it follows Danny Shim, who basically refuses the call to the charge of being the Scorpio protector, and of course incites all kinds of mystical level drama. So yeah.
And we had the Golem of Venice Beach. The editor was on with us. I will say now he's gone. I was surprised they said yes about coming on the show. I reached out. I reached out expecting to get no response.
My family, man. It's just my family. What can I say?
But you know what? I don't care how the door got inched open. We got in. They were on the show. No,
I will say I don't think he was too happy with me rambling on. I was like, "Oh man, I'm totally boring this guy," but you hit on some sore points.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll rewatch it and see. But I didn't hear a point where anybody was upset because I think it was. I mean, in the comments, Charlie. We messed with Charlie, but he put this was one of his favorite discussions ever on Explain Yourself. Because it got deep and it got important and it got passionate. And I can't speak for anybody else. In my mind, tonight, everybody really put thought into their words and put words out there that were important, and I am proud to have been part of the discussion. So as me,
I appreciate you guys having us on and giving a spotlight to the project, but humoring me.
No,
no humor at all.
Well, you just make sure and reach out when Band of Bards has something else, and we will we'll do so again. And
I'll put you on the press list because there's it's a busy year.
Yeah, beautiful. That's awesome.
And Chris, definitely let us know when Scorpio continues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
both of you back, everybody back.
Now's the time where we go on to the projects for creators who have already been on the show.
Off the rails.
But there is one creator that's been on the show that is here. I don't do deep dives, and Will and I have a rule when we launch a Kickstarter, the first show we're launched, we do the deep dive on our project. After that, we do the little, we'll talk about it quickly, but it's for our new guests. But Tart Submerged hardcover is still running. I would love anybody who's still listening, if you haven't backed it. We are trying to make the best hardcover we possibly can of our second arc, Time Traveling Demon Hunters in the World's Most Haunted Waterway. What could possibly go wrong? We'd appreciate you on it, or just sharing or whatever, because we appreciate it. But that's all we're going to talk about Tart, because I've already done the deep dive. Some guy named Mike Allred's brother Will has a campaign launching possibly next week. Is that?
I think it'll be the 28th.
Okay.
So. Yeah, the Crossover Division number 4 should hopefully launch on the 28th. That's
so you can follow that at crossoverdivision.com/KS. Okay, now we warned you guys, and you can hang with us. We would love for you to hang with us, but this is where we talk about the other projects. If you're hungry or tired and you need to get out, you can. Yeah. And if you want to hang with us, please do.
Hey, I'm gonna have to tap out. It's well past my bedtime. But, thanks for having me on.
It was a pleasure
John,
to meet you.
Great to meet you. And
thanks for coming on.
Man,
Good to meet you guys. Good to meet you guys. Yeah, it's almost 1 o'clock. So for me, it's almost 1 o'clock. I don't know what time it is there.
Go to bed.
Have a good one.
Will
and good luck with the rest of the campaigns too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, by the way.
It's our pleasure.
Great conversation. This was a good conversation. If you guys can, Tim as well, if you guys can send me your Twitter, Instagrams, or whatever, I would love to follow everyone. I think I found you on there as well, Will. So I'm gonna follow you on there on Twitter, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks guys.
Beautiful, gentlemen. Have a great night. Mm-hmm. And Shawnee said she also thought it was an excellent and thought-provoking show. So we love to get into wherever the conversation goes, and I really think that it was important with an anthology like The Dark Side of Purity to give it its due with the seriousness that it should be given. We do like to joke on here, but that's definitely not a book that I think I should be joking around. Mm-hmm. I think some other people can, but it's not me. Mm-hmm. All right, John, have a good night, bud.
Yep.
And let's do it, Will.
All right, you ready? You ready to roll, man?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Here we go. Let's see. The Wolf and I, Waves of Dissonance, ends on June 30th.
A YA teen fantasy. Krista said it was about two girls that kind of start to realize that the fairy tales they were told as kids might not be fairy tales, but might be an instruction booklet. She writes and draws it herself, has a magnetic personality. If you can meet Krista Crawford, she is just an absolute joy to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We had
coming up quickest is Rapture Burgers, actually.
Yeah.
Chris Hill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is a comedy manga inspired comic in the vein of a teenager is prophesied to take over the world, and basically uses it to make sure that he can get the burgers he wants, and basically screws around in the apocalypse. And it was a comedy manga and 300-page volume.
Yeah, and that's just the start.
Yes. Chris has got like years of this manga coming. So we're very, very, I'm psyched to read Rapture Burgers, because I'm not a manga aficionado. So these little kind of crossover things help me learn it a little bit better.
No pun intended.
So there it is, Rapture Burgers Volume 1.
I think the next one ending is the Saturn Effect Alpha.
Okay, Chris
Volume 1.
Moses.
And that was our midweek show.
Yeah, our little special. Yeah, Chris wasn't able to come on last week because of some Wi-Fi issues, so we snuck him in on Tuesday night just because I wanted to sneak him in. And I missed you, Will. I wanted to talk to him.
I miss you too, man. Virtual
hug. The Saturn Effect is a sci-fi solar system war. Another like huge expansive world that Chris and his buddies are putting together. There is a web comic that you can actually, I think you can go on a page and find it. We had it. We still have it in there. The SaturnEffect.com is his website, and you can read some of his webcomic right now. And then you can go to the Kickstarter for the Saturn Effect Alpha Volume 1, and you can either get the original comics or a volume, just like John is doing with Scorpio. So that's an interesting. They both did the same same way to go.
Next up, I think, would be Super Heresies.
Yeah,
and then we've got a few people. We got a few friends of the show that also have some campaigns running that we can shout out again as well.
Absolutely. Super Heresies, public domain superheroes. He had created kind of a team up, a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type of team up with these public domain comic characters. And then he decided that he wanted to send them out on their own solo missions. Basically, he had a 6 or an 8 page short that was finished and he didn't have any room for it. So he wrote like another 26 or 30 pages of different stories so that he could get that 6-pager done, which is, I got to respect that. That's commitment to a bit. So
that's right.
Way to go, Joseph Deweese, on that one.
And then we have Curiouser. We're All Mad Here, #1, which is by Lisa and Brant Fowler of Last Ember Press, which is a kind of a dive back into Wonderland.
Alice's son Alec is brought back in. They kind of play around a little bit, like the Mad Hatter is gender bent to a female character, and they kind of play around with that. Fantasy, Last Ember Press just does great work, always has amazing artwork. And I can say that if you back that and Tart, you'll get a free print with your Curiouser rewards. Ludovic Soleil drew it up. It's kind of like a playing card that if you have it this way, has Tart on top and the Knave of Hearts on the bottom, and you can flip it. The Knave of Hearts is here and Tart's here. So it's a nice little free print. But you have to back both. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, except I did work to make these rules. So,
and I'm looking forward to getting that print.
Yes,
that's going to be cool. That's awesome. And I think you said something earlier.
I mentioned. Yeah. Oh wait.
About you should put Tart in more hats.
Yes, Mad Hatter is really cute in that top hat, isn't she? Yeah, no, look at the Mad Hatter on their page. She is adorable in her little top hat.
Then we've got Meraki.
MK Palmer's shithead Greek gods with a very strong LGBTQ representation in a just a fantasy adventure. I think my favorite thing that MK does is she makes sure that there's enough representation that all of her characters don't have to be heroes. She makes sure that her cast is filled with enough representation that, you know what, sometimes the lesbian character might be terrible. And that was her point, was I want to be able to show as real people with strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's I like it as a, straightway dude. I like it as a straight adventure book, but it's also has some awesome representation. And MK is just solid person and somebody that I'm proud to know in this industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I believe she's starting. A new artist is starting with this issue, which is Linnea or Paper Cat, I think, who's done some really great covers, and I'm kind of excited to see her interiors on this.
And another book that I have to bring up is Mike Shea does Miskatonic High, and he's been on the show before. He is a early to bed, early to rise guy. So I've stopped asking him because I feel like I'm making him feel guilty for saying no, but he's just too tired to come on. Miskatonic High is a great, fun story about high schoolers who get stuck in Lovecraftian nightmares. And Mike and I, throughout the last 3 weeks, have been brainstorming and writing something that you guys will hear about a long time from now. When we can reveal what it is, I can tell you that Mike convinced me to do it because it is crazy. Just as soon as I heard his crazy idea, I got excited to do it. So there will be a Toxic Fruit Miskatonic High meetup. Nice. It is different than the Tart crossover division crossover, which will also be out there in the future at some point. But I'm always love to get to let Tart meet other writers' characters, and this will be fun and weird.
We need more fun and weird stuff.
Yep. All right. Well,
I got one more for you.
Oh, yeah, please.
Producing the End of the World.
Yes.
#1, they relaunched from the unsuccessful campaign. I think it was last year, and
they shrunk it down a little bit. Not quite as many stories, not as long, and they shrunk the need, which makes a lot of sense.
And I think they're really close to funding, and they still have quite a few, 2 or 3 weeks left, I think, on it.
Awesome.
I will check, actually. They got 17 days to go, and they are funded.
Yes. Nice. Shawnee says fun and weird equals thumbs up. I can't say any more than it's gonna be different than what we've seen on Kickstarter.
Awesome. Very cool.
All right. Well, I really appreciate everybody who was with us tonight. I'm very proud of what we got into. We still got to have a lot of fun and be passionate about books, and we got to talk about stuff that was a little more serious than we always get to, and it's fun to be serious sometimes. All right, and it's serious to be fun. That makes no sense. Good night, everybody.